Hey, this is Tanisha, and I am finishing out this 3-part series of where I have been talking about this JRK restaurant sketch. So, just so you know, I ran out of battery while recording this video, so some of the recording was missed, unfortunately. I didn't charge my phone. I guess it happens, but I have a lot to cover in a little time, so let's go ahead and get started. So initially this series was not even a series. I was actually just testing out some paper that I wanted to use for my sketchbooks that I plan to make in the future, the very near future. But then somehow it turned into like this whole series where part 1 of the series was me using a ruler to make the building, seeing what I thought about that, and then part 2 was me doing a loose sketch without the ruler, and then part 3, which this is me supposedly doing a very loose sketch, and it doesn't look very loose to me, but in some aspects it is loose because I was going faster than I normally would, I missed a window, so that probably might have been the loosest thing that I did in here. While it is loose, it is not perfect like a ruler. So it's not like perfectly straight lines or anything like that. It's just not very loose. I've seen some very, very loose paintings, and this to me just isn't it. And that's okay. It speaks to maybe just my style, I guess, maybe. I'm going to keep exploring it. I feel like as I continue to go down this journey, I will get looser. So I'm just going to be okay with the journey so far. And I think it's fine. So I did not use a ruler for this. It's very loose. I did use perspective, or I don't know if you call it lazy perspective. So I had a point that I was trying to get certain things to, in terms of perspective and making sure that my lines were somewhat proper. I think the speaker, I didn't even use perspective. I don't know. I just did my own thing. So that was loose. But let's go ahead and get into it. So first, I want to talk about what I loved about this series. One, I love the colors that I used. I've actually been using 3 colors, mostly 3 colors. I did, in this video, I did add an extra color I didn't have in before. I have to say I use primarily 3 colors, but then I had 2 colors that I added in. So typically, I like to use 3 colors, but there was a few additions, and I'll talk about that later. And I like the way I use my perspective. It's not perfect perspective because I didn't use a ruler. I tried to follow my little dots that I made to where I wanted things to go to. So I was happy about that. I was happy about, in this particular painting, how I added more stuff into the scene, because the first 2 paintings did not have enough. So I have the speaker here, I have added a person, some plants, and a fire extinguisher. And I still feel like I could have added more, but I don't think I like overcrowded scenes, but time will tell how things come together for these type of scenes for me as an artist. And last but not least, I'm good with the drawing without the ruler. I don't ever want a ruler painting. There might be times where something is really extremely difficult. I might use a ruler just to get the perspective right or better looking. But for the most part, I just plan to just go with how I draw. And if that means there's a little bit of wobbling, that's just what it means. And that's okay, because I'm not looking for perfection. So I wanted to get into the 7 lessons learned, and I'm going to go through this quickly so I don't run out of time. But I'm really hoping that this is not just about lessons that I learned. I mean, it is, but I'm hoping if you're a new artist, you can take this and just think about these things for yourself and for your paintings. So one of the first things, now again, I like to reiterate that I was not initially planning to do this series. This was just testing paper. So, but I still want to share these things because I feel like in the future it could be helpful for myself and for others. Now, if I was actually doing this as a real series, I think first I would start out with making smaller studies and just doing mini paintings, something really small, so I could test out the colors, test out the shadows, the values, the different things like that, making sure the scene has enough things in it to make it interesting. So that's something that I would have done. So that's one of my lessons learned. Another one is do a value study. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the first one. So if I just check the values, kind of get an idea how dark I want it to be, how light I need certain areas to be to bring interest to the painting, things like that. The next one would be, I did not initially plan to use gouache, but I've decided that I cannot stress about covering up letters with watercolor because it's just too stressful. I love I love watercolor, but it's just too stressful that you can't go back over it. So for me in the future, I plan to use gouache, at least maybe most times, for anything that has letters in it. And one lesson learned is make sure I have the right gouache colors to do that. I didn't necessarily have the same yellow and gouache that I used in watercolor. So that's part of making a better plan in the future. And so I'm actually on tip number 4 now. Ensure the values aren't too dark. I feel like I went a little bit dark on the shadows for the name of the building and for I don't know if that's a vent at the top or whatever that is. I feel like I went too dark. I could have went lighter. I'm not mad about it, but I think I could have went a little bit lighter, so I need to check on that. And I think this might actually be a duplicate of my lessons learned part 2. But anyways, yeah, that's 4. Maybe I'll add an extra one in here because I kind of had the same thing twice. So lesson learned number 5. Personally, this is a personal thing for me, but you could see this for yourself as well. So after you've done some paintings and you realize there's some things you're struggling with, take time out to practice those. So for me, it will be practicing trees or bushes or anything green, any kind of greenery. I seem to struggle with that. And I was not happy with this greenery until the end, and I'm still not happy because again, I had some issues with the values. Had some issues with, I usually always cover my lightest value, but I didn't do it fully here, but I still feel like I could have done better. So yeah, that's where I need to make some improvements. And there's other things as well, but that's definitely one thing I really, really, really want to get better at. Another thing is, I don't know if this is a lesson learned or just a note to self, but I've realized, and I actually didn't know this was a thing. I don't know about you, but I am not a watercolor purist. I actually didn't know what that was, or that there was a word for this until now. But some people feel like you should use watercolor and keep it very light toned and not use very many dark tones. And that's just not me. It doesn't even matter what medium I am. I love bold color. And I'm okay with that. And I think maybe this is the lesson learned. Be okay with what feels comfortable for you. It's too difficult to try to be like other people because you are you for a reason. You are unique for a reason. And just because some people say watercolor should be used in a certain way doesn't mean you have to use it that way. It's your art. It's what you prefer. And so for me, I don't mind using dark colors, bold colors for my art. And maybe some people won't like that. That's okay because I can't please everyone and I can't live my life trying to be like someone else. And so some people may tell you this is not the right way to use it. And hey, that's okay. It's not right for them, but it sure is right for me. So I want to encourage you to be okay with doing things differently because that's what makes you you. And that's what's going to attract certain people to you. All right, and so now we're going into tip number 7. Step away from the painting for a day and then come back to it and review it and look at it and see, is there anything that needs to be adjusted? Like for instance, with the trees, I realized that the bush, actually not the tree, but the bush on the left, it should be kind of under shadow because of the canopy over the top of it. I don't know what that's called, but doesn't really need a light part in there, at least at the top part of it, maybe on the side a little bit. So it should be more in shadow, basically. So that's one of the things I would adjust. There's a change I made that did not make the video. I added some words for another restaurant to the left of this building, and it was too big and bringing too much attention to it. So, you know, just giving yourself time to take your eyes off of it. That's very important. And then when you come back to it, you see it differently. You see things. And it's funny because sometimes I'll come back to something I was so angry about and I'll love it. So just give yourself time. Come back and make adjustments if needed. And with watercolor, it could be a little bit difficult to make adjustments, especially if something's already too dark. But you know, there's always gouache, and again, you can always remake it. And even though this is not a tip, I'm adding something a little extra. You know, let's just have fun. Have fun, especially when you're learning like me. I'm sharing my journey with you because I really hope it can help you. For some of you who don't know, I was an abstract painter before this using acrylic, but I can no longer use acrylic due to some issues that I have with it. One being allergic to it. I'm allergic to, well, that's a long story, but I think there'll be a video. I'll get into some additional things that I found out about why I'm having an issue with acrylic. But anyways, just have fun, and it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay if things don't always come out right. I'm sharing this with you even though I'm not 100% happy with everything in here, but I'm not looking for perfection. I feel like I'm learning from this, and I think a lot of us can learn from this. And additionally, I want to say I made all my blacks from the 3 colors that I use mainly for this piece. So I'm happy about that. You can make your own blacks. You don't have to use black out the tube. Not that anything's wrong with that. But anyways, let me get on with it. So my thoughts regarding the paper. The original reason why I was doing this, I think I like both papers, the hot press and the cold press. So this is the cold press. This is Saunders Waterford cold press, 140 pound, 300 GSM paper. I like it. I feel like I need more practice with it to know which one I prefer. I think I'm leaning towards the hot press, but I'm not ready to make a decision yet. So I'm going to play with this a little bit more. And I think I may just use both, just depending on what kind of work I'm doing. So with that being said, both will probably be used in my paintings because I like them both. I don't really have an issue with either one of them. Now, one thing I was thinking about is when I was doing this ruler, no ruler, is like my style, because I'm still trying to figure out with this sketching thing what my style is. And I don't know. It's going to continue to be a journey. I'm sure I'm going to evolve over time, and I'm going to just let it evolve over time. No reason to rush it. I think right now I'm realizing that I'm not drawing as loose as I thought I would, but maybe in time, maybe in a year or 2 years, I'll feel more loose. And I'm just okay with where I am. I'd rather just take my time. I feel like when you're learning to draw and different things like that, it's good to go slower. And I think as time goes on, I will get faster. So I would say, if anything I can share, don't be in a rush in regards to your style. Even with abstract, it just took me time, and I was starting to get somewhere before the whole situation went down where I can't use it anymore. But hey, it's okay. So anyways, things I plan to work on are my bushes, trees, different things like that. So that's something I really suggest. Just look at things you need to work on them on a small sketchbook. And yeah, this video is pretty much about to be over. So I love to, if you really like what you're seeing here and you feel like you're learning something, I definitely would like to invite you to subscribe to this channel and click the bell so you get notified of any new videos coming out. I try to post at least once a week. And also, if you're interested in my newsletter and just keeping up with what's going on behind the scenes, definitely check that out. I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments. What did you think? Did you like which version did you like? 1, 2, or 3? Love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And I always thank you for supporting me and watching these videos. Look forward to talking to you in the next video.